Hello and welcome back to the Tipple, the podcast where we uncork brilliant conversations with people who are shaping how we connect over drinks, culture and community. I'm Rom, and today, a little bit of a giddy moment for me, I am joined by the Aidy Smith. Some of you will probably already know him. He's an award-winning drinks broadcaster, a journalist, a TV presenter and a storyteller whose voice has genuinely been one of the most distinctive and influential in the drinks world and beyond. You might recognise him from The Three Drinkers, a globally streamed drinks and travel series, or from his writing in The Independent, his BBC radio work, the digital communities he's built with Sipped and Dislabeled. The list goes on and on in a really good way. For me, he's also just a genuinely amazing human being. I think what's really compelling about Aidy's journey is that he's pushed beyond the expectations of a typical drinks communicator. He blends humour, curiosity, a little bit of community building and creativity with everything he does. And he's one of the fiercest drivers of inclusion, representation from neurodivergence advocacy to mentoring underrepresented voices. And I've been privileged to spend a little bit of time with him, so I know how that looks and I know how that feels. So today, we're going to talk a little bit about what makes the drinks culture truly human. But we're also going to talk about creativity, connection, identity, authenticity, and everything that can become your superpower when you know your voice and when you can use your voice. And we're going to talk a little bit about wherever all of that takes us. And just a small note, this conversation was recorded before the 2026 BAFTA ceremony. So welcome to the Tipple, Aidy.
Hello, hello. Gosh, you're making me blush with all of that. Honestly, wow, what a beautiful way to start things off. What a gorgeous intro. Thank you.
But it's your intro, right? There's nothing in there that isn't factually correct. It is you in a very quick 1.5 minute intro. But I guess it's very easy to say thank you very much and what an intro. But your career has started in drinks. You've, from wine to spirits to global travel series that you do. So reflecting on that intro, where did it all start and what made you go, this is the category or this is the job or this is the bit that excites me?
Do you know what? The ignition moment had absolutely nothing to do with drinks. It was fascinating how people just fall into a certain moment in time and everything clicks together. So I studied at Lancaster University and I had a 4-year course. And as one of those years, I had to do a placement year. And at the time, I was absolutely obsessed with going to the United States and just working there. This was back in 2010. So a long time ago. And I was obsessed. I really wanted to get a job and do my placement year in America. And so whilst most people, went out clubbing and to Sugarland or whatever it was called in Lancaster, I would be in my dorm, in my room, sending emails. And I sent over 6,000 emails to different American employers. And despite the university at the time telling me there was no hope in hell of anyone with a disability getting a job over there, never mind an employer paying for a visa, I got my job. And I ended up going over to San Francisco to work in a graphic design agency. Now, the journey there took 60 hours because in Iceland, the volcano had exploded. So there was ash everywhere.
Of course.
I finally get off this plane in San Francisco and I have a text message on my phone. And it's from the placement department of the university saying, oh, by the way, we forgot to tell you there's a networking event this evening. It's the first one we've done in 5 years. The vice chancellor of the university said, you've got to go. And I'm like, oh my God. So I go in my little suitcase, take out a crumpled suit that's too big for me and wander on down to the Palomar Hotel in San Francisco, this fancy 5-star thing. I'm in the lift on the way up. So, ding, ding, ding. And suddenly it dawns on me. I'm like, oh God. I'm 20 years old. I can't drink here legally for another 4 months. And now I've got to talk to all these boring assholes for the next
They probably have been drinking as well.
So I go up and I open the door. And this guy looks at me straight away as soon as I walk in the room, walks up to me and goes, hi, my name's Steve. Shakes hands with me. He goes, you need a drink. Just grabs a glass of wine and pushes it against me. And I'm like, oh my goodness. I'm like, what is this? I take a sip and he goes, this is a Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm in love with this. Now, it turns out that this guy, has the same last name as me, Steve Smith. He is from the same university as me. He studied the same course 25 years ago, was in the same halls of residence and grew up 4 miles down the road from where I grew up. And on top of all of this, Steve and his wife Rose, they own the only urban winery in the whole of Silicon Valley. So from the age of 20, I was essentially making wine with them every weekend before I could even legally drink it. And that's where the passion grew. It grew from love, it grew from family, it grew from belonging and being a part of something, which then came across as taste. Steve and Rose would take me out to all these amazing restaurants. They adopted me as their own. And through that lens, I was able to fall in love with what was in the glass, basically.
And we talk a lot about what's in the glass, but that example there is a little bit more about what's around it, right? Those connection points. And you talk about it, a very serendipitous story of, he grew up down the road from me. But you also then had to work at that connection, and, you were in a different country and you were learning as you go. And you talk about having this real passion. What made you comfortable to stay in this industry? And because you are absolutely a wine expert, but you are a broader expert, you're a communicator, you're a connector. How did those beginning entry points into the industry help you? But then where did you start to find your voice?
Do you know what? I think that it's when you see the glimmer in someone's eye, when you're talking to them about wine or spirits or food or drink or travel or lifestyle, any topic for that matter, when you're having a conversation with them and suddenly something just clicks and it's like, oh, wow. And one of the biggest epiphany moments I have with people, if I'm doing an event or whatever it might be, if someone's watched a video, I always talk about how we have over 10,000 different taste buds on our tongue. And sweet, sour, bitter, salt, all these things, they matter so much. And when someone takes a sip of something, they typically put it in their mouth and swallow it, then it's done. What they don't do is move it around their tongue, top, side, bottom, left, right, back, forward, and then swallow it. And that's when they get that taste moment, which they've never had, because now they're tasting, 90% of what that is versus 10%. And they're getting the flavor, they're getting the experience. And it's in that moment when someone drinks something that they love, they're like, oh my goodness, whoa, this is what I'm missing. You don't have to be some fancy expert to get this. It's just getting the taste of it. That is what makes the magic happen. And when I see people have that little moment when we've gone through that experience together, everything changes. Everything changes for them at that point. And it's, seeing the wonder and seeing people's vision and love, that's what keeps me going within what I do in drinks.
But I love that you make it accessible. You don't gatekeep it. So, some of the drinks industry, and wine is an example, it can feel really scary. It can feel like, I don't taste hints of leather in this glass of wine. True story. But when you talk about it in that way, and you explain as well around, it's just about, we've all seen people tasting wine and moving it around, but to help people understand the reason why behind it just makes it more accessible, less scary, and more inclusive, which is kind of you bottled, right?
Well, and I think, it's don't take yourself so seriously. Just have fun. At the end of the day, when we do something that we love, we have fun with it. And if we've got a stick up our arse, then it's just going to put people off. No one wants to see that. I mean, don't get me wrong. Yes, there are rooms where people want to see that. Know your audience, and that's great. Yeah. And if your audience is people who want to spend a lot of money on a wine because they have money and they don't know what's in the bottle, but they want to act like, they're all at 10 Downing Street, then great, you do you, hun. But for the rest of us who just want to go out there, open a bottle and have a good time, then go with it. And, the other big thing I'll say is never shame anyone. Never bitch about someone's wine choice. If someone's having a, £5 wine that you would never buy in your life, they're starting their journey. They're beginning somewhere. Rather than shaming them, help them explore something else that they might like. Rather than doing the whole, I wouldn't drink that. There's way too much negativity going on and not enough helping someone on their journey to just figure out a new taste sensation. And I read a piece of research recently that said, for every moment we complain, for every moment we are negative, we are actually killing our brain cells. We are actually killing brain cells. Every time that we are thinking negatively, we are destroying our, cortisol levels, all of this, the serotonin, everything going on in our body is that the wrong things are being increased and the right things are being depleted. So focus on happiness. Focus on happiness.
There is enough negativity out there that you don't need to create your own.
Amen.
You are naturally, from the conversations we've had, in that space of positivity and happiness, and I absolutely love it. And already some of the examples you're talking about are these inclusive, you just want more people to enjoy the category, more people to be happy, more people to just enjoy life. But some of the way I suppose, deliver that inclusivity is by creating it in your lived experiences. And you talked about a placement, and nobody with a disability had gone and achieved this placement over in the States. So the disability is part of you and your lived experience, but you've been really open about your experiences with Tourette's and ADHD, and that drives a lot of that advocacy around neurodiversity. But has that shaped your creative voice? And if so, how?
Yeah, I think it absolutely has. If you've gone through things in life, if you've gone through certain experiences, that is always going to leave an impact on you. When I was a kid, I was bullied like all the time. And I mean, my Tourette's at the minute is less to moderate in terms of symptoms. And for anyone who isn't aware of what Tourette syndrome is, it's a neurological condition where you have tics. Tics can be vocal or they can be motor. Motor means it's a movement. I might roll my eyes. I might shake my head a little bit. I might twitch my hand or my abdomen. One of my most painful tics right now is a twitch in my stomach, which then puts air into my stomach because I'm constantly bloated. And that's, 90% of people with Tourette's have chronic pain. I have chronic pain because of that tic. Vocal could be someone doing a whistle, saying a particular word. For me, I sniff. I have a sniffing tic. So that would be kind of vocal because you can hear it. And growing up as a kid, those tics were, mixed in with something like OCD. So I would walk down the street and if I was on cobblestones, I'd have to jump. And unless my feet touched my bum at the exact same time, I'd have to do it again and again and again. If I was walking along cobblestones, unless my feet touched the very center of each of those cobblestones, I'd have to go back to the start and do it again. I have had what's known as coprolalia, which is the swearing element of Tourette's. I used to shout the F word for about a year and a half. And it was debilitating. I get sent out of the classroom all the time because, teachers at that time, how on earth would you respond to that when you're not armed with the right educational materials or whatnot? So suffice to say that I'm just giving you a little picture of childhood for me, which was horrific and which explains why I do so much now. But within that, you have to think differently. You have to grow in terms of empathy, think about things in a third person perspective. Your emotional intelligence goes through the roof. Your cultural awareness absolutely skyrockets. And so when I do what I do now, I've been looked at as this kind of rebel of the drinks industry in a way, because I'm unapologetically myself. And, not everyone's going to like that. Not everyone's going to be okay with that. But I'm not here to please those people. And I never will be. I'm here to help people on this journey to just discover more about, yes, what's in the glass, but on top of that, about themselves, about their own life journey. And if you can bring the two of those things together, the creative outlet that I have is all been born because I'm not afraid to go out there and ask the questions that other people fear will make them look like they're not an expert. And to be honest, do you know what? I never classify myself as a wine expert or a spirits expert. I talk about myself I talk about myself as someone who has a really big passion for it, who just wants to go on a journey with other people. And our past experiences always shape our future. And it's kind of up to us to figure out how that happens and why it happens. But just lean into who you are as a person. Always lean into who you are as a person unapologetically. The right people will stay. The wrong people will leave. And that's great.
It's a lot less exhausting. And that bit around, that the right people will stay, the wrong will get, that bit about not pleasing everybody all the time. Even if you're flexing, even if you're trying to be the right person to everybody, you can't be. It doesn't feel authentic. And I think we just have to get comfortable. Certainly as I've got older, I've got more comfortable with, not everybody's going to like me all of the time because we are all so different. And so just get comfortable with liking yourself, I suppose, a little bit more. I do think, though, that a lot of listeners will be probably juggling that bit around their personal identity and their professional expectations. And I think even hearing you describe some of the tics, I could imagine for you, at school growing up, but also in professional environments where people perceive a tic of rolling your eyes as something else, as dismissive or not engaged with conversation. What do you wish more people understood about neurodivergence and creative careers or careers in general?
Well, I guess the first thing I'll say is it's paramount as an individual who has a disability or is neurodivergent. It's paramount that you go out there and communicate more about yourself to those around you in the workplace. No one else is going to do that for you right now. And you may be sitting there thinking, well, why do I have to do that? Surely it should be, surely it's something they should do. But the sad truth is, at this moment in time, if you want a better, more comfortable life in the workplace, it's got to be up to you. So, take those bits of education awareness and spread them around the HR department. If you can, if you've got the confidence to, do a little talk about whatever you're going through so more people understand. Because I can tell you right damn now that there'll be so many other people in that workplace who are going through similar things, if not directly, but indirectly, who from listening to you talk will be like, oh my God, I see so much of myself in that. That's incredible. And you'll cultivate this community of people at that point, whereby you're talking to others who understand what you're going through. And there is a reason why 70% of the world's self-made millionaires are neurodivergent. And that's because we refuse to fit in a box. So if you're working for someone and you've already tried to do what I've just mentioned and that's not working, get the hell out and start your own thing, or go somewhere where you are appreciated. It's better to take a step back and focus on what's going to make you happy than continue to go on the hamster wheel of doom. And, a lot of us neurodivergent folks end up being trapped where we just continue and continue and continue. But there will come a hard truth moment for you where you'll spiral and crash, or you'll have an epiphany moment beforehand, hopefully, and think, F this, F this. I'm not putting myself in this position anymore. I choose happiness. And then you go out and you create some magic, whether it's working for someone who gets you or whether it's doing your own thing. But what we should not have to do is mask. And for anyone who doesn't know what the word masking means, is essentially when we have a disability or a form of neurodivergence and we are essentially pushing our symptoms or whatever that is aside and pretending we don't have them for the benefit of others because we don't want to put them in an awkward place. For me, that would be, trying to withhold my tics and hold them off for as long as I can so someone else doesn't feel comfortable. But the truth is, at the end of the day, those tics need to come out. And that's my evening ruined because when I get home, they'll be coming out.
So you've really put yourself in an environment where the decisions that you make, whether it is hiding your tics or not holding your tics, are quite visible. So you're a global TV and radio host. You are openly discussing neurodivergence like Tourette's and ADHD. You're openly gay. You're leaning into these spaces where you've been able to claim your full self on camera. And I don't want to take anything away of the journey that's given you the confidence to get to that place. For a lot of the people, the example you were just talking about creating a community, people will be looking up and seeing this. But in reclaiming your full self and getting to that point in your journey where you were able to do it, how has that changed maybe the opportunities or the challenges that you've come across in a world where you are on show for your job a lot of the time?
Do you know what? I wish I could say that it's gotten easier over time, but it's still so difficult. And people who have Tourette syndrome are not allowed or meant to be on television. That's literally like what the world has decided. Because the notion of Tourette syndrome is that we all swear. And even the movie that came out recently about John, who has Tourette's and had the documentary done about him in Scotland, that movie is called I Swear. And so, you've got all these things going on right now in the world which depict Tourette syndrome as a swearing disability. And I'll talk to people so often who will, I'll tell them I've got Tourette's and they'll be like, but you don't swear. I say, I swear all the time, but it's because I'm from Yorkshire. I've just got a foul mouth.
Everybody does up there, yeah.
Terrible people. I blame my mother. So,
oh, me too a lot of the time, but for very different reasons.
Yeah. Is funny. Like, well, it's not funny. It's terrible how hard it is for someone with Tourette's to try and get into this kind of creative lens. And this TV show worked because of the way it was created. It worked initially because it was, we created it as a team. Like, I went out, got the money for it from brands, and then Amazon took it without knowing at the time I had Tourette syndrome. Had they known I had Tourette syndrome, maybe they wouldn't have. Who knows? But it did well, and then it continued. So the Tourette's thing was secondary. I was a very, very good presenter who happened to have Tourette's, and it wasn't affected on screen. But what a lot of commissioners and a lot of TV channels think is that if someone has Tourette's, they will have to reshoot the scene over and over and over again because the Tourette's will get in the way. They'll have to re-edit scenes all the time to get rid of the tics. All of these things equal money, 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 money. Now, the first thing is if someone has Tourette's as a part of who they are, so they just get on with it.
Don't edit it out.
Don't edit it out. Let it be a part of what it is. And, and secondary, it's so important that we normalize these things. In the moments where I have had a tic, I've had people reach out and be like, oh my gosh, I saw you do an eye roll a couple of times. And it then dawned on me, I wonder if this guy has Tourette's. So I searched it, and you do. And how refreshing it is to see someone with Tourette's just like doing their thing. And, the other point, I've got a radio show that I do on BBC Radio London. But when we're being pitched out, when there's new news to other radio stations, we hear, oh, I'm sorry, we can't have people with Tourette's on the radio on live because, we don't know, they might swear. And we have to then remind people that less than 10% of people with Tourette's syndrome have coprolalia, which is swearing. And thankfully, at this point in my life, I don't have it. It's very difficult to deal with. But straight off the bat, we are put in this bucket where we are judged and where doors are closed. And so regardless of, do you know what? It has been so difficult and so hard to go out there and achieve what I've been able to achieve. And sometimes I don't give myself enough credit for it. And a lot of people who have been through hardship don't. They just kind of get on with life and they're trying to achieve more and more. But we have to pat ourselves on the back sometimes. And I'm so proud of what I've been able to get through and the hurdles I've been able to cross and the doors I've been able to not open from someone else's standpoint. But yeah, I always say, if you knock on all these doors and no one opens them, go out, buy some wood, buy some nails, buy a hammer, build your own door, open it and walk right fucking through it and make your own opportunities. That's what I've done in life. And that's what I would urge everyone else to do when they come across these hurdles or challenges, because no one else is going to do it for you. They will when you're famous and you've done it for yourself. Yeah. Oh, they'll come running towards you. But before then, it's on you and you got to find that courage. And what I will say is there are some wonderful people out there in the world as well. And we can never negate away from that. And in December of 2025, I signed a historical deal with a company called Banijay, which is the world's largest TV and film production and distributor company. And I'm the first person in the world with Tourette syndrome to ever have signed a co-development deal with a production company of this size, even within the top 20, top 30, I'm sure. And that is because the people who I've spoken to at Banijay, a lady in specific called Carlotta, who is their head of branded content division, see the beauty in the world of having all these voices who have never, ever been able to have that, that platform before to come out and tell their stories and just be who they are on camera. And so whilst there have been hardships, I've been working towards something like this for about 6 years. And you do have those moments when you put in enough hard work and you get to know the right people and you put in the energy and the effort, it does come into play. The jigsaw puzzle becomes completed. You just got to work goddamn hard for it, more than most.
I don't want to skip over because you started talking about the three drinkers, and it, to your point, just so everybody's aware, if you want to go and check it out, it is on Amazon. Great series, lots of learning from it. So I don't want to skip past that. It's great that you've got people who are seeing past, and you talk there around working with these people who want to be able to see and hear all these other voices. And that's what it is, right? That's exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about representation. Aidy at 6, 8, 10 years old, going through what could only be described as the bullying environment of school. Your kids can be really direct and, support in an education system that doesn't know quite how to support. How would he have felt being able to see somebody like Aidy on TV showing up and seeing that representation?
I mean, those moments are life-changing, absolutely life-changing. When you feel like you belong, it honestly creates a whole other world of opportunity for you. I mean, all I remember from a kid was seeing Ricky Gervais take the piss out of Tourette's on his comedy shows and seeing Pete Bennett from Big Brother, who had quite severe coprolalia, who is a lovely person, by the way. I had him in a documentary that I did about Tourette's for BBC Radio 4. And, so growing up, you're basically, chastised and mocked for something you can't help. and you are a joke. And I still believe that Tourette's is the most laughed at disability on the planet, with all the little videos that you see from a comedian standpoint. And then the only kind of person who you've got in the spotlight has one of the worst possible cases of Tourette's. So that instantly now becomes the norm. And if I had seen what, not just I'm just one small piece of a much greater movement. I mean, if you've got the Tourette Association of America, you've got Tourette's Action, right? You've got, and I'm the global ambassador for the Tourette Association of America, and we've got our ambassador program and the youth ambassador program. And you see these kids going out there and championing in their schools, doing public speaking, going to the Senate, going to Washington, D.C. You see the courage that they have because they've seen others within the community speaking up and talking. And that is quite literally life-changing. There's a statistic in the Tourette's world. It's either 48% of people with Tourette's at some point in their life consider ending their life. 48% of people with Tourette syndrome at some point in their life consider ending their life. And when I was a teenager, I became one of those statistics because I hated my life. I really did. And we've just done the new impact survey at the Tourette Association. The stat I've spoken about there was from 2022. I truly hope the 2025 one will show a massive reduction of that. I truly hope. What I can say is that there are just so many people today going out there and talking about whatever neurodivergence or disability or whatever they're going through across social media. And as much as there are very negative things with social media, which I can quite openly talk about from a mental health standpoint, there are gleaming gems. And these kids and these adults and these people who are going out there talking about their lived experiences so others can see that they very much belong. So that 48% doesn't ever need to be a thing. Mm-hmm. That is what is so beautiful. And I find so much inspiration from other people who are going out there and doing exactly that. Because it's you've got to be vulnerable to do it. It's a double-edged sword. Every time you go out and talk about your vulnerabilities, you are opening a Pandora's box of upset and sadness that is going to hit you afterwards. But if you can, within those words of wisdom and within those moments of vulnerability, talk someone quite literally off the ledge, then it's an absolute no-brainer. And I do it time and time again, and I will continue to do it time and time again because it matters. It really does.
You talk about building your own door and walking through it. It's also about leaving that door wide open for everybody else to walk through, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh, yes. Yes.
And I guess that's part of Dislabeled and all the work you do in that space, really powerful platforms. I think everybody can understand probably a bit around what drove you to create them. But talk about if you can talk somebody back, that's a real legacy, right? That's a genuine legacy. But what's the legacy with all the work you've done, the platforms that you want to leave?
I want people to feel loved. I want people to feel loved for who they are and to not have to wake up and think if they belong in this world, think that they're weird, that they're not allowed to follow their dreams, that they're not allowed to be included or part of the circle. Or if you've got Tourette's and you want to be a cheerleader or a pilot or a surgeon, go out there and goddamn do it. And not just Tourette's, whatever you are living with, you can go out there and you can do it. And it's not going to be easy and you're going to have to fight so much more than other people, but you can make it. And things like Drinclusive and things like Dislabeled and all of these other beautiful people out there who are creating the same kind of things. We're on this journey together to show each other you exist, you are loved, you belong, you're part of this community, and you can go out there and thrive. You can absolutely thrive. And we're here to show you that that's possible and to help you do that. And we talk about leaving doors open. If you are in any position of responsibility or power or whatever from what you've been able to create, you've been able to achieve, help other people on the way up. Because if you come into something as a niche, the first person to do whatever, but then you safeguard that, you gatekeep that, and you capitalize on that because you're the one getting all the money or you're the one getting all the, the glory and the fame, that's going to bite you in the ass. You need to help other people on that journey. And I've been trying so hard to get a kid on TV within a Tourette's role. And at the end of last year, we finally were able to do it. There's an animation series in Canada, which also goes to the US. And as part of the storyline, we had a little girl with Tourette's going to the studio, and it was her character within this episode with all of the other characters talking about Tourette syndrome. And they used her tics in the animation. So when she was recording, they literally observed her tics, and they were the tics in the animation. And, if we can open this door for others on that journey to be able to succeed. Yeah, right now, I am the only global TV presenter in the world with Tourette syndrome, but I do not want to be. There need to be more of us out there who can openly talk about our experiences, because there is so much talent and creativity within neurodivergence. It is on a whole other level, because we do have to think differently. And so, yeah, I would say in the same reason that we all create things that do good, we just want people to feel loved, and honestly, to not have to go through what we went through as children. We want them to feel embraced, loved, and know fundamentally that they can thrive and they're capable of doing whatever they put their mind to.
I think we'd all agree, wouldn't it be wonderful if things like disabled, inclusive, raising the glass didn't need to exist? Because that means it's better. We're also not naive, and there will be a lot of these initiatives that exist probably for quite a while. But I'm with you. We need to move away from this is one area. The more people that are having more conversations in this space, the quicker we drive the change. Mm-hmm. It's not just about in that moment and that individual. Everybody's got stuff going on. Can we just be a bit kinder?
Yeah, I always say that kindness is so important. And there's something that every single day I try and do when I'm walking around, when I'm on the tube. I smile at people. And even if someone on, a train or a bus looks totally miserable, I smile at them even more, because the fact of the matter is you do not know what kind of day someone is having. And they could have just had the worst possible news. And that little smile that you give them could help them move in a direction that will actually benefit them, and that will spark them to think, do you know what? No, I'm going to be better than this. I'm going to be in control. And there's another thing that I always put into place. And I would love to start something which is called Nod to Acknowledge. If you think about when we walk down the street and we see someone who is disabled, or a carer of someone who's disabled, or we see someone, who is visibly neurodivergent, like with Tourette's, ticking away, the first thing that people do is they look away. And they look away for two reasons. One, because they don't want to perceive that they're making that other person feel uncomfortable. And two, because they want to avoid any form of awkwardness for themselves and don't want to put themselves in a position whereby they feel, out of place. However, there's two things going on here. One, when you look away from someone who has that disability walking down the street, you're essentially ignoring them in the same way that people ignore homeless people. And that is absolutely crushing and debilitating from a mental health standpoint. Like literally, for both the carer and the person who has the disability. What we should instead do is just look, smile, and nod. Because that little acknowledgement that that person has had in their day, someone on the street looking at them, showing them kindness in a smile and just nodding to say, hey, how you doing? Hope you're having a good day. And then moving on with your life. My God, the impact that has. And with homeless people, exactly the same. You don't need to give them money, but just acknowledge that they're there. When they come by on the tube asking for something, just smile, nod, say, so sorry, I've not got anything. Have a great day. Nod, give them that little moment. Because from a mental health standpoint, oh my goodness, it is so important that people feel that they belong. Like literally humanity, we need to feel an innate sense of belonging. Otherwise, we will not exist. Literally, that is why people end their lives, because they do not feel like they belong. It is built into our DNA as humans. And if we can help people feel like they belong, even on the worst moments that they're having, it has such a huge, huge impact for them.
I talk a lot about belonging, and hopefully today people have heard a little bit of the importance of it, but also the importance of finding your tribe. So if you're sat there listening, this is your tribe. There are people out there that will acknowledge to nod. We have talked about mental well-being today. So, again, just to remind anybody listening about the Hey Dan initiative, which was set up at the back end of last year, to just encourage people to say, hey, check in. And that's part of this, that check-in, that that say hey, not hi is something that somebody who's working on it with us has spoken to me about. That sincere check-in, just to make sure people feel that they've mattered today and that they belong, is super important. If there is anything in this episode that has caused somebody to just reflect, or if anybody wants to reach out, obviously you can reach out through Raising the Glass, you can reach out through Hey Dan, they can get hold of you. You're on Instagram, you're on all of the social handles. You've also got Dislabeled, and you're very easy to find. And in case anybody didn't realise, I think he's absolutely amazing. So track him down and he will absolutely walk the talk. Aidy, thank you so much. I was super excited for this episode. It has been insightful, joyful, thoughtful, and I just want to say a huge thank you, because it has been vulnerable, and you've stepped into that space. You are one of the most authentic people I have met on this journey. You genuinely are, whether you're talking wine, travel, but when you're just talking one human to another. And that's what community is. That's about us remembering we're all human. I hope everybody takes something away from this. I hope everybody thinks about, if they can't get through the door, or they can see somebody not getting through the door, that they go and build their own door. And I hope everybody sits there and reflects on the fact that everybody should be able to walk through that door, because that's what belonging is about. So thank you for bringing that conversation to light for us today. I hope everybody reflects on how they connect with the drinks industry, with others. But today, everybody, maybe just think about how you can reflect on connecting with yourself. Aidy, thank you so much.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Until next time, he was Aidy, I was Rom, and this was The Tipple.